Well, welcome to our self-paced webinar on the biggest reasons aircraft claims are denied. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Tim Bonnell. I'm the president and CEO of Aris Insurance Solutions. And today I just wanted to kind of have a quick overview, a short webinar just to help provide a little bit of education to aircraft owners and aviation businesses about the most common reasons aircraft claims are denied and some things we can do to help avoid that. So without further ado, I want to jump right in to the webinar just to respect your time. The first reason that many aircraft insurance claims are denied is due to the pilot not meeting the qualifications laid out in the aircraft insurance policy. So the pilot may not have a valid medical. The pilot may not meet the required number of hours to meet the open pilot warranty, or they may not be named as a named pilot. So what does that mean? In order to have insurance coverage be valid in the event of an aircraft loss, the pilot needs to either meet the requirements outlined in what's called the open pilot warranty or the open pilot clause, or they need to be named to the aircraft insurance policy. So open pilot warranty or open pilot clause is basically a set of standards outlined in the policy that if the pilot meets or exceeds those requirements and is a casual user of the aircraft, coverage is still valid for the aircraft owner. So it may be this pilot is commercial, multi-engine, and instrument rated with 1,000 total time and 500 in multi-engine, 15 make and model, and has been to ground and flight training in that make and model aircraft. So that would be requirements in an open pilot warranty. Well, a lot of times pilots don't meet those, or they're just regular users. And so they really need to be a named pilot. That's where the pilot completes a pilot history form. The information is submitted to the insurance company for their underwriter to approve the pilot, naming them as a named pilot to the policy. That just means that that pilot now can pilot the aircraft and the insurance policy is still in place. There was something I mentioned there that's really important, and that was training. Most aircraft that are turbine, cabin class, or have large limits have some sort of training requirement. It often says ground and flight training by a manufacturer or by an insurance company approved trainer. A lot of times that could be a simulator-based training company. And so it's often the training, the lack thereof, meeting that training requirement that'll invalidate the insurance coverage. And it's really important to read that requirement because sometimes it may say 12 calendar months. It may say 12 months from the date preceding that flight. So if someone did training December 15th and the policy open pilot warranty or just the policy name pilot training requirement says that they have to do it every 12 calendar months, then they have to do recurrent training by December 31st, right? But if it's within 12 months of the date preceding the flight, it would be December 15th of that next year. So, after they've done the training, that coverage or that pilot training has to be renewed, basically, or conducted prior to that date for coverage to remain in place. So avoid denied claims for aircraft insurance losses by making sure that the pilots meet or exceed the requirements laid out in the insurance policy's open pilot warranty or open pilot clause. Make sure that they satisfy the pilot training requirements, and in most cases are, when they're regular users, that they're a named pilot to the policy, meaning the insurance company has reviewed the pilot's history and training information, and they've approved them and endorsed them to the policy. Now, that said, as a bonus information, all insurance policies are based on accurate representation of the information. So if a pilot overstates significantly their qualifications, that could invalidate the coverage right there. The insurance policy in the conditions section say that this policy is written and based on the fact that the information you, the insured, has provided us is accurate. And typically they're asking for the logged hours, right? A lot of higher time pilots don't log all their hours. They say, well, I've got so many hours, or I had a bazillion hours in the military, but in my logbook, I only have X. What the insurance company is asking for is the properly logged in the FAA logbook amount of flying hours that they have. And if it's not accurate, that could invalidate the policy. That's not typically the reason. It's not one of our top three, but it's a very important thing to remember. All information on an insurance policy must be represented appropriately. If we're concealing or withholding critical information, that could invalidate the policy if it's discovered. So policy is conditional on accurate representation of the risk. If we're hiding a pilot who flies it regularly and they don't meet these qualifications, that could lead to a problem. So accurate representation is very important. It's actually critical to the insurance policy remaining in the coverage remaining in effect per the terms of the policy. Any type of misrepresentation, concealment will lead to a claims denial. So make sure that the pilot requirements are met. That's the first key to avoiding a claims denial. The second is making sure that the purpose of use is how the aircraft's being operated. So it's being operated within its approved purpose of use. Each insurance policy has an approved use. That could mean pleasure and business use. It could mean commercial use. And those definitions vary from insurance company to insurance company. So it's important to know the definition of the use in your insurance policy because it could make or break your insurance coverage. A very frequent use, so for aircraft owners who own and insure an aircraft piloted by the owner, typically you'll see a pleasure and business use policy. Well, does that mean you can use it for aviation business? No. The definitions for pleasure and business use vary widely, but it could be anywhere from any flight where no charge is made or no remuneration is received. Or it could say, any pleasure or incidental business travel flight where no charge is made, however, will allow for direct reimbursement of the following costs related to the flight: fuel, oil, hangering, anything else very specific to that flight. Again, those will be specifically laid out in the policy. So pleasure and business use is the approved use, and it will be different from each insurance company on what is approved. So if we go and charge someone, certainly hourly rate to use our aircraft, we'll loan it to them and we'll charge them $500 an hour when the fuel, oil, and gas, would have only been $100. That could actually invalidate the policy. So charging someone to use the aircraft for their use of the aircraft, certainly incidental charter where it's not charter, but the flight is charged for by a commercial pilot, that could invalidate the policy. The purpose of use would be invalidated. What we're operating the aircraft and doing needs to be the approved use. So commercial, we want to make sure the definition of commercial. If we are chartering an aircraft, we want to make sure that the definition of commercial includes charter. So it's very important. This goes back to my comment on proper representation to the insurance company. If they think they're insuring an aircraft for pleasure and business use and it's actually being chartered, that's a misrepresentation. That's using the aircraft outside of the approved use, and the claim will be denied. This is one that will be seen each year. Invalidating the purpose of use of the policy. So that's number 2. Do not invalidate the purpose of use of the policy. Be sure that how you're using the aircraft is approved by the insurance company. Some people will lease their aircraft, dry lease, wet lease. Usually those leases will need to be approved by the insurance company for coverage to remain valid. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts. It's just best to make sure anybody else using the aircraft for any charge that it is approved by the insurance company to avoid invalidating you, the aircraft owner's insurance policy. Now, the third thing I was going to talk about today, the third major reason that aircraft insurance claims are denied is a violation of the policy territory. Each policy has a different geographical territory specified where coverage will apply. Some of that could be U.S., Canada, Mexico, and the Bahamas. Some of it could be worldwide. Some of it could include the Caribbean or the West Indies, but it varies. Typically, if you are operating in the United States only, that's less of a concern, but if you should check it either way. But certainly if you're operating outside the country, make sure that your insurance policy territory, the approved territory, coverage territory, is a part of wherever you're flying. Now, keep in mind one thing. United States businesses, certainly United States insurance companies, cannot provide any claims or pay any claims or do anything with a country that is sanctioned by the Office of Foreign Asset Control, or OFAC, a division of the United States Department of Treasury. They can't do anything illegal, and that includes settling a claim in a country or a place that's on the OFAC's no-no list or on the specially designated national SDN list. So certainly countries at war, sanctioned countries, we're going to want to avoid that either way. Even if our policy says worldwide, it's worldwide except those countries that are sanctioned by OFAC. So it's important to make sure anytime we're flying anywhere out of the usual, make sure that our policy is our policy coverage territory covers that locale, the country, the destination we're going to, and we want to make sure in certain places that it's not on the OFAC, SDN, or sanction list, because insurance companies cannot pay claims there. They cannot do business there in any way, even if your policy territory says it's covered there. So the pilot requirements and pilots meeting the terms and conditions of the policy is one key. The purpose of use, using the aircraft by the approved purpose of use of the policy, will avoid a claims denial, and then making sure that you're operating the aircraft within the policy territory. Now, I want to add a little bonus in there, in that a lot of claims frustrations come from a disagreement over the settlement amount. And so one very important thing when it comes to aircraft insurance is insuring the aircraft to a proper value. Insurance for aircraft is written on an insured amount or agreed amount basis, meaning that amount that the insurance company and the insured agree to, that's stated in the declaration of the page of the policy, is the amount that they're going to pay in the event of a total loss. That's typically why if an aircraft is way over or way below a Blue Book value, the insurance company will require a justification because they don't want a problem on this. But here's what happens in a physical damage loss. Whether it's a total loss or a partial loss, the insurance adjuster will go out and get a repair bid, or they will ask you to get a repair bid. What's it going to cost to repair this aircraft? But at the same time, they're going to look at the salvage value bid of the aircraft. What's the salvage worth? And they're going to add those two numbers together. And if that number is about or more than the insured amount, they're going to total the aircraft. And that's called a constructive total loss. So the aircraft still could be repaired, but it makes more economic sense for the insurance company to total the aircraft. So they're going to write you a check for that amount on the insurance policy. They're going to take the title of the aircraft since they did that, and that's where it's going to be left. So it's very important that we are insuring the aircraft for what it's worth today. Now, in today's day and age, as this is being recorded, a lot of insured values have soared. They've increased greatly over the last year or two. And so it's important to review the insured amount on your aircraft very frequently to avoid this underinsured loss. Sometimes people will say, well, I only owe X percentage, so that's all I'm going to insure it for. Well, if there is a partial loss, they're almost likely guaranteed they're going to lose that aircraft and they're going to get paid that small amount for it, which typically leaves a large void in the actual value of the aircraft. And certainly they are not going to be able to replace an aircraft with anything, or replace that aircraft with anything of similar kind of quality without it taking a big dent out of their pocketbook. On the other hand, if you overinsure the aircraft, number one, you're going to be paying more premium. And number two, it's going to make it easier for an insurance company to repair the aircraft when you'd rather be replaced. So you have a partial loss, it's not destroyed, and you would just assume it's damaged enough you'd rather be replaced, but the insured value is so high, it just makes more economic sense for the insurance company to repair the aircraft rather than replace it. They have a duty to bring you to the best position that you were prior to the loss. You can't profit from a claim. That's something the definition of insurance is to restore you to what you would have been had the accident not occurred. So that's why it's so critical and important to make sure you're insuring the aircraft to the proper value. Underinsuring is going to lead to the aircraft being totaled much easier than you would have hoped. Overinsuring is going to get you an aircraft repaired when you would have rather had it replaced, in addition to higher premiums. So that's a bonus issue. It's not necessarily something that will lead to a claims denial, but it is something that leads to a lot of frustration and legal disputes with insureds and insurance companies. So avoid those 3 Ps. violating the pilot requirements and the pilot training requirements, violating the purpose of use, and violating the policy territory. Avoid those three things, the three Ps we like to call them, to make sure that you avoid the three most common ways aircraft insurance claims are denied, and then make sure you're insuring your aircraft to the proper value to do your best to make sure there's not going to be a frustrating claim settlement in the event that there is certainly partial damage to the aircraft. Well, thank you for joining me for this short webinar today. If you have any questions, I'd invite you to reach out. You can click on the contact link below. You can call us at 844-422-0023 and check out our website, arisinsurance.com. That's AERIS insurance.com. But we'd love to talk to you and see how we can help make sure that you are not putting yourself in a position to have your aircraft insurance claim denied, and to provide you with the highest levels of customer service possible. Thank you for joining me today.